SSTO Blaze.
Hey there, this is Tio bringing another installment in my KSP Life Support series. In this video, I'm going to be going back to one of my previous videos in this series where I assembled a station for Eve, bound for Eve in low Kerbin orbit. I'm going to be revisiting that. I'm going to send out an engineer and some parts and strut up the station. I mentioned in the previous video, I think it was video 4, that whenever you build these modular stations, the Kraken, the spaghetti monster, can attack, and the whole station can sometimes wobble itself apart. When you're using the larger docking ports, it's not so bad. The medium docking ports can be a little worse, and the small ones are obviously the worst. So yeah, send an engineer, and I'm gonna use EVA construction, one of the best features ever added to the game, to add some struts. I do recognize that the struts are gonna kind of render the artificial gravity ring useless, but I don't want to send this thing to Eve while it's wobbling, so I'm gonna go ahead and strut it up. I'm also gonna create something here in a moment on screen. You guys are gonna see that will enable me to I guess perform this strutting task a whole lot easier. Didn't design the station with this step in mind, or I guess I intended to do what I'm going to do, which is send some more supplies up to the station to aid Joester, this engineer, in his EVA construction task. So there you see how the station's looking. Got my mobile processing labs moved up. I think in my 4th video I had put them on the ends of the anti-gravity ring, but I like them where they're at now, so that gravity ring isn't as heavy, I suppose. So there you see my little pod. I'm gonna go ahead and deorbit that. I think the engineer's gonna stay on the station. Do have parachutes, so this thing can land safely. We can recover the parts, get a little funds back. Although this is a science playthrough, so deorbiting, things like this, I typically just do for fun. There's a lot of things. You could argue that the entire game of KSP is just for fun. So however you like to play, this is how I like to play. So I'm anxious, excited to show you guys the next part of the video. A fun little build. Probably should have included it in the thumbnail and the description of the video, but as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Joester needs a little more help, a little more assistance with his assignment of strutting up the station. There you see I'm testing out the anti-gravity ring. The artificial gravity ring. And that's not working as intended, so there we go. Adjusting the torque and playing with it. Robotic parts are funny. They're funky. You also have to make sure SAS is turned on so the rest of the station doesn't wobble. But so yeah, anti-gravity ring technically kind of works. Artificial gravity. Why do I keep saying anti? Artificial gravity's kind of working, but time to get the rest of the station strutted up. Really lock it down tight as a tick, so I won't get any of that wobbling. I don't know why I'm putting the Kerbal here, because you can't leave the vehicle while the Kerbal's out on the ladder. So I'm gonna have to go and put him back inside one of the pods, so I can go back down to the surface, go into the space plane hangar, show you guys what's up next for the mission. So you see, I guess I'm moving some of the cargo and storage around, and don't even know what I was doing here, to be honest. Oh, there, I am doing a little bit of strutting. I've got a few struts to work with, so I got some of the small structural beams. There you see now the wobbling is definitely stopped on those solar panels, so you can see in action how beneficial the struts could be. So running out of parts, don't have any more struts, and it's going to be a little difficult to strut up the top of the station. I've got some linkier, longer parts up there, or some sections up there. So this is the fun part of the video, in my opinion. Go ahead and put some supplies into this little module here, this little probe, with some cargo space. I'm going to put a grabbing unit on one end so it can just attach to any part of the station, not just a part with a docking port. It's got a probe so it can come and go on its own, but it's got the little exterior ladders, I forget what they're called, for the engineer to stand on, or to hold on to rather. So I got to get the probe up into orbit, and for that I'm going to build this, I think, SSTO, question mark. Maybe I'm going to launch it vertically, maybe I'm going to launch it from the runway, we'll see. And I don't know that it'll use boosters. I guess technically that's what defines an SSTO, whether or not it has any earlier stages, any boosters or anything like that to help get it up into orbit. The intent with this is to land it on back on the runway or on the surface somewhere. So we'll see if that's going to happen. But I love making vehicles in the space plane hangar. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Sometimes it's fun doing the tall staged rockets. Sometimes it's fun to do something that takes off horizontally. And SSTOs can be a little more complex. You have quite a lot of fuel and mass that it takes to get a small payload up in orbit. So when you have small to medium payloads, an SSTO I think can definitely be fun. When you get a little too big, then they become less feasible in my opinion. It's so much quicker and easier to send something up in a more conventional rocket configuration. So yep, this one's looking like an SSTO for sure. Got the Rapier engines that are both air breathing and closed circuit, where they have their own oxygen supply. So gonna hopefully get the wet fuel to the dry fuel, I think is that what it's called, those ratios correct. Gonna have enough oxidizer for the later part of the ascent out of the thicker parts of the atmosphere where you're running out of oxygen. So hopefully I've got enough fuel for this SSTO design. So yeah, fun little mission. I like reasons to build smaller vehicles like this. I tend to build things on a smaller scale. It's just my preference. KSP doesn't favor larger builds with issues such as the Kraken, so it's convenient for me that I like building smaller stuff anyway. I really wish there were smaller parts, but in actual space flight and in reality, these parts are not that small, so I guess it makes sense in KSP that things need to be bigger. Well, there you see I've done my rendezvous and using the little probe and under its own power and RCS to attach with the station. I can grab my engineer, do another EVA, and hop around the station using that grabbing arm and strut it up. Let's use this to really build supports throughout the whole station so we get almost no wobble whenever it's time to go to Eve. Because that initial burn, I don't know what we call it, a deceleration burn. We're trying to slow down in relation to Kerbal so we can lower our orbit and meet Eve. Whenever we do that initial burn, sometimes it can take several minutes in game, and you don't want to do it at less than full throttle if you can. So at full throttle, sometimes the station will start to bend and wobble, and can really make those longer burns a pain in the butt. So the less wobble, the better. We're just going to strut the hell out of this thing. Definitely would have looked nicer. Oh, there you saw some of the wobble. Awakened the Kraken and destroyed some ports. So whenever you're doing EVA construction, you do need to be careful if things are moving while you're trying to attach a port. It'll, when the physics calculation kicks in, things can start to really stress and break. So wouldn't recommend attaching a strut to something that's actively moving. But I don't even remember what I was saying before that port just disassembled itself rapidly, unscheduledly. There you see some of the life support components. I think I mentioned that in the fourth video as well. Those are what the whole series is about. It's going to provide food and water. Yeah, oxygen was not a new part, but it's new for Kerbal consumption. Electricity was not a new resource, but it is now also required for Kerbal survival. So if you haven't watched the earlier videos in the series, definitely go check those out. They explain a little bit more of what the mod does and why I'm playing with this particular mod. But let's see, we're getting a little bit closer to the end of the video. So I got a couple more minutes, but it's a couple more minutes of the same thing. I'm going to be adding struts. Struts for you, struts for them, struts for everybody. Everybody gets struts. Oh, that's what I was going to say before that other part exploded. If I had done this strutting in the VAB, it definitely, or the spaceplane hangar, it definitely would have looked a little nicer, but obviously more symmetrical and uniform. But I'm just kind of going for this haphazard, crazy Kerbal look. So now I can detach my little, what do we want to call this? Little engineer tug, this little EVA assist vehicle. Gonna use the RCS on this to hop around the station. Don't even have to move the Kerbal. He can stay on the ladder just like that. And attach some more struts. I don't remember if actually I'm pretty sure I would put this little tug back into the SSTO and send it back down to the surface. I guess in theory I could have left it with the station, but would have been a little bit of unnecessary mass. And also don't anticipate doing this again, going from Eve back to Kerbin. All the struts, if I do want to take them off, can go into cargo units elsewhere on the station. And I don't plan to take this back from Eve. Once I send it to Eve, it'll just stay there permanently. I can always take the crew back, but leave the station. No reason to take the station back to Kerbin. So getting to the end of the video, you guys are going to see my SSTO laziness, I suppose. In theory, you can try to gauge your approach there. I guess I tried. I came over, you saw the Kerbal Space Center there, but I missed it. So I'm going to try to land and run out of fuel and crash and burn. So that's the end of the video. Hope you guys are enjoying the series. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and I hope to see you again soon.